Hi, my name is Cameron, also known as Venus Theory, and welcome back to another episode of PSP University. Today we're here for the third and final part of the EQ series to answer the last remaining big question: what makes every EQ different? As I'm sure you're aware, there are a lot of different types of EQ. In the previous video, we broke down each different type of EQ and some case uses for it, and before that we took a broad look at EQ as a whole and talked about what it is and how it works. When it comes to EQ, not every EQ is created equal, and this is even true of EQs of the same type. To demonstrate this here today, we're going to do a bit of a listening test using several different parametric EQs with the same settings on some different sound sources. As I'm sure you've heard before, some producers like a certain sound that's given by a certain piece of gear. Some may prefer to mix on an SSL, some may prefer to mix on a Neve, some may prefer one compressor over another, and some may prefer the sound of a classic hardware unit of just passing audio through it without necessarily doing anything to it at all. While it's pretty fair to say that most parametric EQs do more or less the same thing, it's kind of like saying every car is a race car. While it's technically correct, it's maybe missing the point a bit. When it comes to EQ and the world of music production in general, you'll often start to develop your own sensibilities and tastes for what you like on certain things. For example, you may like one EQ on vocals, but not really like it for anything involving bass. You might prefer one compressor for drum overheads and a completely different one for acoustic guitars. This really ultimately boils down to your own personal subjective tastes, and I think it's a very large part of what gives you your own unique vibe as a producer and as an artist. As you listen through these examples today, I would recommend you first do it without actually watching the screen and seeing what EQ is being used, and instead taking mental notes on what you like the best and what you hear that's different between them. Maybe you like something about one but dislike something about the other. One EQ may sound more mellow, one may be more punchy, one might sound more aggressive and have things kind of jump out of the speakers at you, and some might be a little more precise or digital sounding. Once you've done that, go back and take another listen, but see what's on the screen just to check out which ones you liked and maybe download them for yourself to try them out. Before we get into the test here, I want to point out one quick disclaimer, and that's that you're listening to this on YouTube, which offers pretty compressed audio and it's not necessarily the highest playback quality in the world. However, PSP offers free trials of their plugins, so you can download these for yourself and use them on your own source material to A/B them and see what differences you can hear. In each of these three listening tests today, we're going to take a listen through 8 different parametric EQs with the settings as identical as possible. It's not entirely possible to match them up precisely as they're not necessarily all the same, but I've got it as close as I can to offer a good way to listen back and hear the differences and nuances that each one brings to the table. So with all that out of the way, let's listen to the audio examples.
Whoa, oh, oh, yeah. Oh, 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 whoa, oh, oh, yeah. 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 Oh,
With all those examples in mind, it should be a bit more apparent that different EQs, even if they're the same kind, can offer pretty different results even with the exact same settings. In the hardware world, different EQs sound different because of the components they're made with, how those components are put together, what order they're put together in, the shapes of the filters, how hard the signal is being driven, how well the unit has been maintained, and a lot of other variables that are unique to that specific unit. In some cases, you may even have two of the same things, but they'll have very different sounds for a variety of different reasons. All of this is to say is that no two EQs are necessarily totally alike. It might be a bit of a subtle difference, or it might be a bit more of a drastic change between the two. It's important to understand what EQs you have access to and learn the ins and outs of how they sound on as many different types of audio material as possible. That way you can easily find which one is best suited for the job. As I mentioned previously, from there over time you'll eventually develop your own unique taste in what EQs you like on certain things and why you like them, and this is part of what makes your sound yours. And that wraps up everything for this episode of PSP University. For more information on PSPaudioware plugins, you can head over to PSPaudioware.com, and for more PSP University, you can subscribe down below.